The centerpiece of this week's visit by the Chinese president is Beijing's support for Moscow in its war against Ukraine, and the peace proposal that China has presented to both parties. Experts say the proposal is especially important for China.
It is China itself that is most interested in it, because the present situation is very unfavourable for it. Its economic ties are being disrupted, international trade, logistics, infrastructure. China is under a very serious pressure.
Both Beijing and Moscow have focused in recent weeks on the lifting of sanctions as a requirement to achieve peace in Ukraine, something that shows sanctions against Moscow are biting. Experts believe that China needs to get out of the current situation as much as Russia does.
Both Russia and China are under sanctions pressure from the West. Russia might be affected by this pressure more than China, but nevertheless, it is an issue for China.
On the table will also be the geopolitical confrontation of China and Russia against the West, and the support that Beijing can give to Moscow, especially now that the United States believes China could supply Russia with weapons, something Russian experts say is unlikely.
I think that Russia will hardly apply to China with such requests. I do not believe there is a serious deficiency of weapons that can't be replenished at the expense of the internal resources.
But relations between Moscow and Beijing are not perfect, and both are fighting for influence in Central Asia. Even so, having a common enemy weighs more, say observers.
There are certainly problematic issues between the countries, relations in the Central Asia region, as well as the approach dealing with the development of the Far East resources. But both Russia and China learned how to forget about them, since there are more significant objectives.
This visit by the Chinese leader will serve as a measure of how much these issues really weigh, compared to the isolation and economic hit that both nations are taking as a result of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. For the VOA Moscow Bureau, Marcus Harton, VOA News.